All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Wednesday afternoon. The NBA season is upon us, man, and the NBA report is back. CP the franchise, Alex Rotaros on the ones and twos. On today's episode, we will react to the opening night festivities, man. The Nuggets showing the Lakers who's daddy, and the Dubs falling to the Beal-less Suns, man. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to talk Wembymania, man. Victor Wembanyama gets to make his NBA debut as a rookie with the San Antonio Spurs, and our guy, Noah Magaro-George, who covers the Spurs for Air Alamo and the host of Alamo City Limits, will join us to touch on the Spurs and Wembymania, man. So lock in, hit that like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. NBA report, man. How you feeling, man? How you doing, bro?
Happy, bro. I mean, look, we got the NBA back. We got our Knicks playing tonight. There's a lot going on, man. We got a full docket today. I'm ready to talk NBA, man. I love, as you know, I just love the league. How are you feeling, though?
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. Let's kick this thing off with the Lakers and the Nuggets. Ring night in the Mile High City, man. And, you know, look, all the trash talk during the Western Conference Finals last year, into the offseason, even the Nuggets parade announcer guys getting into it, Mike Malone chirping, LeBron chirping, AD chirping. First and foremost, congratulations to Denver. It was nice to see them get their rings, and you saw some emotion out of Nikola Jokic, man. But into this game, Nuggets kind of picked up where they left off, man. And that was showing the Lakers who's boss. You can talk that talk, but at the end of the day, you got to go out there and execute. Nuggets beating the Lakers 119 and 107. How about this from Nikola Jokic, man? 29 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Picking up right where he left off, man. Jamal Murray, 21 and 6. Michael Porter Jr. with the double-double, man. 12 and 12 for MPJ. And you had all 5 Nuggets starters in double figures. You had all 5 Lakers starters in double figures. Nuggets jumped out the gates, man, with an 18-point lead, kind of riding that momentum, that ceremony momentum, as Jokic said. Lakers would keep it close, man, but down the stretch, just like in their Western Conference Finals series, man, the Nuggets, with their playmakers, with Jokic, with Murray, they just make more plays and they execute down the stretch. Put the Lakers away, man, 119-107.
Oh, man. Dude, the one thing I'll say from this game, you know, you said a lot right there, but the one thing that really stood out to me, and shout out to JJ in the chat because he legit saying what I was going to say.
Yep.
AD disappearing in the second half, man. Woof. You only have 17 points. It's supposed to be a big 2 with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And LeBron James in 29 minutes did his thing. Anthony Davis in 34 minutes, 6 of 17 from the field, only 17 points. Look, man, you're going to need more from Anthony Davis if you want to compete, especially against the Denver Nuggets. I was watching Nikola Jokic play last night, man. And shout out to Jokic because he looks even faster in the paint. He looks like he's got even quicker footwork than he did last season. And, you know, he was talking about he was in the gym 6 times a week just trying to get stronger. You see it, how he's just battling with Anthony Davis in the paint as well. But if you're AD and you're trying to make a statement, if you're trying to show that you're still a top guy in the league, you can't get bullied like that, man. Jokic was just making quick work out of Anthony Davis last night. But shout out to Jokic, man, because that's what an MVP caliber talent does. The way he looked last night, to me, it just seems like it's only a 2-man race at this point. It's either Giannis steps up his game this season, but Jokic right now, after last night's opening performance, like, good Lord, man. I know it's only game 1. We're not going to the overreactions. There's 81 games left for the Nuggets to play, but Jokic looks like he's on a different level right now, man. That's just insane.
He's a man on a mission right now, man. And it's just so interesting because somebody on Twitter kind of put it as we're in kind of this grind culture, and in the off-season workouts are very trendy, right? You're seeing everybody, they're making their highlight reels, they're showing you their best stuff. You got Chris Brickley, Black Ops Basketball, who's there, who's battling, who's grinding, right? After they win the championship, Jokic is like, yo, I'm tired. I want to go home. I want to play with my horses. I just want to chill, have some drinks. And so here he is, comes right back, picks up where he left off, picking the Lakers apart, picking Anthony Davis apart, on his way to a triple-double on opening night. 29, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists. But I think it's funny because you kind of have this impression of Jokic that he's kind of just like hands off and whatever. But he said on the TNT postgame after the game, he said he was working out 6 days a week trying to get ready for this season, man. So it's no surprise after the performance that he put on, he puts in the work. It's just quietly like he always does.
Absolutely. I mean, and shout out to Christian Winfield for tweeting this last night. Said Nikola Jokic said he was in the weight room 6 days a week all summer, but didn't play basketball for a month or two. Then he comes in and hangs a triple double like nobody's business, man. Yeah. That's insane. Absolutely insane to take off 2 months, 1 to 2 months, and then drop a triple double. That's where I would go back to looking at Anthony Davis like, bro, what are you doing? Because LeBron needs you. Like, look, we gave credit. We gave credit to the Lakers for their offseason moves. They added a lot of wing depth. They got a lot of good players. I like how they got, Gabe Vincent on the team. I like the extension for Austin Reeves, making sure that you keep him around. But like I said, it's LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Shout out to LeBron James for his age and still being able to hoop. You can see that his legs are starting to slow down. It's not that he's not that blur that we saw early on in his career, but he's understanding how to use his physicality still to get down and finish in transition. But Anthony Davis, you have to come out and look better than that if you're going to help this Laker team get further or even compete in the playoffs. Because there's points in the third quarter, CP. I thought it was going to be a runaway show for the Denver Nuggets. Lakers would make a comeback and make it interesting in the fourth quarter, but then the Nuggets were like, let's put them away. Light work. Nothing to it.
Yeah, and you mentioned LeBron James, man, a team high 21 points for LeBron, still doing it at 39, but I think there's going to be cascading effects here, right? 21 points, 10 of 16 shooting, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. I'm watching LeBron at 38 years old going coast to coast in this game, and it's just, you have to respect the greatness, but here's where things got tricky, because when the Lakers brought the game back to within 4, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, they're down by 4 or 5 points. He comes out the game. And that's when we learned from head coach Darvin Ham that LeBron James is going to be on a minutes restriction, man. And it's like, it's not surprising because, listen, it's LeBron. He's 38. You have the NBA's new load management policy where a player like him will be able to qualify for those type of load management restrictions because he's put in the work, he's logged the miles and so on and so forth. So for the Lakers, this is interesting, man, because you mentioned Anthony Davis and his ineffectiveness, especially in the second half. Yes, they added pieces. I love the wing depth they added. I love Taurean Prince. I like Gabe Vincent and the guys that they added. But how do they manage this where LeBron James is going to be limited to 30 minutes? Are they going to stick to it? How do they stick to it? Because, again, the goal is, yes, to get LeBron to April, May, and June. But I don't know how LeBron, the ultimate competitor, is going to be able to accept that, especially when he's still playing at a high level, man. Tough call. Very tough call.
It's a tough call, but after last season, man, and how he missed time based on that foot injury, it makes sense why you put him on a minutes restriction. He said 39 years old, man. He's still going. But at some point, father time does catch up. For most of LeBron's career, injuries weren't a thing. But the fact that we've seen now, especially once he joined the Lakers, right before he even got Anthony Davis, remember that team with Lonzo and everybody else, right? B.I. and everyone. He got injured that season too.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see more and more injuries for LeBron James. We're starting to see that he's not capable of playing all close to 82 games, right? So it makes sense for Darvin Ham where you have your superstar LeBron James, you have to give him this minutes restriction because it's not right now. Yes, you want to get off to a good start. It's like when you think about the 400-meter dash, right? Yep. You're running track. You want to get a good start in the 100. You start getting a good stride for about the next 150, and then you start to pick it up towards the end of the curve. And right now, you still want to get off to a good head start so that way you're not in a hole as the Lakers. But at the same time, LeBron James needs to get that rest so that way he's refreshed and ready to go when it gets to April and May because that's where you're going to need him most. So not surprising there. But to your point, this is where it goes back to Anthony Davis. When you're a healthy AD, you're supposed to be one of the top 10 best guys in the NBA. And last night, you're not playing like one of the top 10 best guys. First half you did, but you can't just go into these disappearing acts, which seems to be more and more common for Anthony Davis. But for LeBron James, man, if you're looking at him as the ultimate competitor and you see that your running mate Anthony Davis is going to have nights like this, like it's going to be a tough call. Maybe Darvin Ham, and I know it's too early, maybe he's going to have to flip the script and play him those 36 minutes to begin with, and then figure out the middle of the season what he's going to do. Because if it's going to end up like that, man, Lakers going to have, it won't be the worst case scenario, but it'll definitely be a tough time if you're trying to think about seeding and placement in a tough Western Conference.
17 points for 80, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 of 17 from the field. No points in the second half, no free throw attempts in the second half. And so that was 80's night, man. A tough one for 80. Austin Reeves, again, another guy that got the bag. 14 points, 4 of 11 from the field, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Austin Reeves had himself kind of a quiet night for the Lakers as well. Let me play this audio from Screamin' A. Smith, our favorite guy. Shout out to Screamin' A. This was on First Take this morning. This is what Stephen A. had to say about AD. We'll listen and then we'll react. Here it is.
Points in the first half, okay? In the second half, let's look at the numbers, okay? Second half, 18 minutes. 0 points. Zero! I mean, Anthony Davis, that's trash. 0? Really? I mean, that's just embarrassing. Then you're going to go to this. 0 for 6 from the field. Not a single free throw attempt. Nothing. Darvin Ham, didn't I tell you don't tell that brother to shoot threes? Didn't I tell you that? Didn't I tell you need to get his big behind down in the post and be the man that he's supposed to be? You got skills, otherworldly skills. And you going to put forth a trashy performance like that in the second half against the reigning defending NBA champions who, by the way, en route to get into the finals, swept you to do it in the offseason. You sat up there, Anthony Davis, and what did you say? Oh, we heard him. We heard them. They were talking a lot. They were talking. Oh, me and love LBJ, man. We can't wait. We can't wait. And then you do this. LeBron James was Mike. Why do you think it was Mike? Because he wanted the world to hear him imploring you to be that dude.
All right, so that was our guy Screamin' A. Smith, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong, Al. I tend to think he's more wrong than he is right most of the time. But, listen, he's entertaining. He's doing it for TV. But he's not wrong in a sense that, okay, yes, on one hand, Mad Dog's reply was like, it's the first season, it's first game of the season, relax. But look, with LeBron James's minutes restriction now, it amplifies Anthony Davis's role even more. His importance to this team is even more. I've always said when they got him, when they traded for Anthony Davis, look at the season that they had when they went on to win the chip. But I said, look, the future of the Lakers, yes, LeBron James is still playing at a high level, but the future of the Lakers, it has to be Anthony Davis to really push them to be a dynasty with those two there. And now he gets a contract, one of the highest paid players in the NBA, and so he can't have regular nights. He's not going to be able to afford regular nights. He has to be outstanding, especially when it comes to April, May, and June. He's got to be outstanding, and I'm just not sure if he can be, and maybe that's not good enough. Maybe, you look at his performance last year in Western Conference Finals. I mean, he played as well as he could. Game 2, he was a no-show, but for the most part, he played. He put up his numbers, but it just wasn't good enough. And so now you put a minutes restriction on LeBron, and now the pressure's on Anthony Davis, a player who's not durable in his own right. And that's why I think, yes, it's only game 1, so not to overreact, but it makes me doubt the Lakers' potential to really be a legit contender because so much is riding on the health of these two guys and then the performance of Anthony Davis.
And then on top of that, you got to look at Austin Reeves, who to me is the third guy in that pecking order, right? And you can't have, like, Austin Reeves, he got the bag. Wasn't a great shooting night for him. He got to the line, which he's able to do. Solid rebounding. Still shows you he's got that playmaking chops with the 4 assists. But look, you're going to need him to do a little bit more too. You gave him that contract extension. He's known to hoop. You got to be better than that too. So it's not just Anthony Davis. I get why Anthony Davis is going to get the spotlight because he has that superstar tag to him and not Austin Reeves. He's not there. Will he get there? That's another question. But still, regardless, you're going to need Austin Reeves to be that third dog. Just like how we talk about RJ Barrett to be that contributor, they're going to need Austin Reeves to be that contributor, especially if you're going to have LeBron James taking a step back to stick with Anthony Davis, though, I have a question for you, CP. Like, if you're the Lakers, right? And I know it's game one, but it's not even like I know there's questions about this season and the capability, and like it's only game one and how it's going to play out, especially with injuries and so forth. But if you're looking long term with Anthony Davis, life after LeBron James, how concerned are you as the Lakers if this is what you're going to get? Because, as you said, you're talking about Western Conference Final. No show in game two. He played as best as he could. You got Nikola Jokic, who's here in the Western Conference for the foreseeable future, right? It's not an easy conference.
Yeah.
You got the Phoenix Suns now for their limited window. And we're going to talk about them next because that offense, even without Bradley Beal, is insane. And then to talk about that, you think about those two guys. Rest of the West is still up and coming. You got the Pelicans. Everybody's on their heels, right? You got the Sacramento Kings who are trying to make a name for themselves. If you're the Lakers right now and you got Anthony Davis and you're thinking life after LeBron James, which 39, man, like it's going to happen sooner or later. Are you confident? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
How are you
It's a
feeling
gamble.
right now when you see that?
Look, it's a gamble that that Pelinka and Jeannie Buss have made, but you look at the way that LeBron James played. This team went to the Western Conference Finals. Anthony Davis was a big part of that as well. I always look at these things as a cost of doing business. You take care of it now, you worry about it later. You had Austin Reeves playing at a high level. You hope that he continues to do that. I loved how Rui Hachimura looked with that team, especially as they progressed throughout the playoffs, so maybe he takes another step with them. I like the supporting cast members that they brought on. I like the Lakers. I like how they look. But again, a lot is riding on AD and LeBron. And look, that's just the gamble that they made. A couple of years ago, they made the deal with the devil to get Anthony Davis. They sold off their chips. They got a championship. It paid off. And now is the challenge of how do we keep our contender window open. They were a revelation last year, rose up from the ashes into the play-in and into the Western Conference Finals, and now you added some supporting cast. So it's a risk, but I think you had to make it if you were the Lakers. So now you just got to live with the decision, see how they play throughout the season, man. So let's see how that works out. But let's flip it to the Phoenix Suns, man. Phoenix and the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant, could you believe this, Al, visiting the Warriors for the first time since the COVID shortened season. First time with fans. Kevin Durant coming back home, man. Coming back home. Oh,
Wow.
I think I lost your connection.
Tells you how often. Am I here now?
Yeah,
Am I here
you're good. Go ahead.
All right. One, it tells you how injured he was while he was out in Brooklyn, and two, he doesn't play that often out. He's like Brooklyn. I get that you don't see. You only go to the Golden State Warriors arena throughout the season, but still, it's been this long. That's crazy. But,
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is, man. That's funny though. That's funny.
Absolutely.
But he was even he did well last night. But the thing is, we're going to talk about Devin Booker dropping 32 on the Warriors.
Let's talk about it, man. 108-104. Suns edge out the Dubs. No Bradley Beal, the game storyline. He rested this game with a sore back. So you had Book, you had KD. And Book was cooking. 32 points, 30-21 from the field, 8 dimes, 6 assists. Like, I'm not sure what was more impressive, torrid shooting that he puts on from the field, especially from the mid-range, or, the final plays of that game, being the playmaker that the Suns are going to need to have a chance to really win this thing, right? Because they have their big three. They have Durant, Beal, and Booker, but no true point guard. And what we saw at the end of that game last night was the final 3 assists of that the Suns, the final 3 assists belong to Devin Booker. The final 3 assists, man. He was electric as a playmaker and just as great as a scorer, man. Devin Booker was great, man. He was great last night.
If anything, you're starting to see that, especially through the evolution of the NBA, like the traditional point guard that just brings up the rock and just facilitates is not, you don't need that anymore. As long as you have guys who are capable of playmaking, like someone like Devin Booker. Look, he's done this in the previous seasons too, right? Through injuries, we've seen Devin Booker be that type of guy. And he's at this point in his career where he's really taking it to another level. And I like the Suns, man. I still have questions about it, especially when you have Bradley Beal being injured. Devin Booker was 50-50 for last night as well because of an injury. But the fact that just those two guys alone, you get 32 points from Devin Booker, and he's still like your solid playmaker. And Kevin Durant could be your playmaker. Bradley Beal could be your playmaker. You have enough playmaking when all those guys are healthy. On top of that, we got to talk about Nurkic too on this team because he also could be a playmaker, man. And I like how he looks better fit than what DeAndre Ayton would have been for this team. So Devin Booker, fantastic ball player, man. It looks like he's just ready to take even another step in his game because I think he's going to own. He's been the representative of the Phoenix Suns for that city for quite some time. And I think he's just owning it at this point. You think about Kevin Durant's age, his injury history. He's still new to the team, but it's KD. KD is KD, but it's still Booker's team, right?
Yeah.
So for Book to be able to do this and to own it, that's probably the most impressive thing. And then once you have KD and Bradley Beal supplementing the rest of the scoring and playmaking and everything else, and even KD with the rebounding, this team it looks good, man. It looks good.
Only one game, but I like how they look, man. I love the depth pieces. I like Devin Ebanks. I like what Utah Watanabe can bring, especially from three. Eric Gordon being the veteran that he is. I like the veteran pieces that they have. And obviously, how about Josh Okogie, man? 17 points for Okogie last night. 7 to 9 from the field, 5 rebounds. I mean, he was all over the court on both ends, especially late. And I thought that's what won the Suns the game because late in this game you had Jonathan Kuminga miss 2 key free throws, and on the other end, Josh Okogie gets the bucket for the Suns, man, to help them pull away. That was big, man. That was big because the Suns had a 1-point lead after Kuminga missed free throw number 2. And then Booker feeds Okogie for a 3-pointer at the 109 mark. That puts the Suns up by 4, and they never look back. To me, that was a turning point of the game. But Okogie was a big contributor for them, and he was a big one last year for them. A lot of the fans were feeling Okogie. So supporting cast looks good. And as you said with Booker, the thing I like about Booker is that with KD, no, he didn't have a great game last night. Again, first game of the season is 18.7 to 22 from the field, 11 boards. But Book has takeover ability. You know, he's a takeover guy. And you know, you get into comparisons to Kobe. And I'm starting to see it. As much as I hate it, as much as I want to let the late greats have their own spotlight, you've seen it with Book, man. The
More
approach,
so than Tatum.
yeah, the shot selection, his body control. I mean, he looked excellent last night. But as a playmaker, he's going to also be important for this team. And so I can afford, if I'm Phoenix, with that depth, like Nurkic and Okogie and Gordon and those guys, I can afford to have KD be a little bit less than peak KD, if that's where he's headed. Because Father Time, as you said, catches up with everybody. I can afford that because now I got Beal. And I got Book playing in God mode right now. So I think Phoenix is going to be dangerous, man, when they see the Nuggets. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And that's going to be a fun rematch, honestly. That's the rematch I want to see in the playoffs. But with, like you said, Book has that takeover ability. But even still, man, like KD is still KD. Bradley Beal is still Bradley Beal. Any one of those guys can take over on any given night. Yeah. I think it's going to be Devin Booker who's going to carry the ship for most of the time, but still, like, even a bad game for Devin Booker, you have the capability of Kevin Durant going off. You have the capability of Bradley Beal being the star that he is. So this team in general, offensively, I mean, even through the preseason, dude, we saw so much capability, and they're not even the scary thing is they've only practiced for a few months together, right? Yeah. Like, I'm sure they've done like stuff outside of like training camp and everything. So we haven't even seen them like a well-oiled machine yet. That's scary.
Yeah.
Obviously, the biggest thing for them between all their stars, because all the stars of this time, is health. Even with Nurkic, health is going to be a big thing for the team because it is top heavy. They were still able to round out that bench unit and the supporting cast. But still, health is going to be the biggest thing for the Phoenix Suns, as is for every team, but really for this team, because as we've seen, Kevin Durant misses time, Bradley Beal misses time. Like he just missed game one.
He just missed game one,
clockwork, right? Clockwork. The thing that you can't have though is guys like Grayson Allen giving you donuts. Mm-hmm. Like, thank God for Devin Booker going off, because stuff like that, it's 108, 104. You cannot have guys who are in your supporting cast, like who are supposed to be your shooters, giving you a donut. He's not a star, but still, like, you cannot have guys like this just in your rotation giving you donuts.
Mr. TD in the chat. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA Report, CP and Alex. We are back, and we are reacting to the opening night doubleheader on TNT. Shout out to Mr. TD in the chat. Says, look like KD played the Robin role yesterday. Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely interesting as well. JJ says, I like Nurkic a lot. Yeah. JJ says, I like Nurkic a lot. Really good player when healthy. Mr. TD, Nurk doesn't hold the ball. What a great fit. Yeah, he looked good last night. Certainly looked good last night. Looked slim and trim. See, hopefully, health is of the utmost importance for Yusuf Nurkic. Let's talk about the Dubs. We got our guy Noah covering the San Antonio Spurs. He's going to be on the line. We're going to talk Wembymania in just a little bit, but let's go over to the Dubs. Storyline of that game for the Dubs. Obviously, the debut of CP3 starting bench. He started last night. No Draymond Green. What'd you think about the Dubs minus Green in terms of how they looked last night? What'd you think?
You're gonna need more out of Chris Paul and Klay Thompson, dude. You're gonna need more out of those guys for the Dubs to stay afloat in this team. Like Steph Curry did his thing, but the supporting cast has to be better. For me, it's just I think it's just an awkward fit. And there's still you still see that the Warriors are still trying to figure out how everyone meshes in their role on this team. So they were able to make it an interesting game, no doubt about it. But I have my questions, man. I just don't see how you can go out with a lineup like this. I get that Draymond's not playing, but then when he does play, I don't even know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
So I still have questions about the Warriors moving forward. A lot of star power. Name wise, but wasn't too impressed, man. In all honesty, was not too impressed. What were your thoughts?
Just game one, and so we have to see what happens when Draymond comes back, how that looks. I don't think the CP3 addition is going to help them that much, for the simple fact that he's not CP3 anymore, right? And so if he was, he'd still be on the Suns. So he's not the same guy, even though he is a genius. One of the greatest of all time, a guy, yes, he will figure out a way to get it done, but with that, we just talked about it with the Lakers. Father Time, durability questions are going to haunt this Warriors team. Can they make it through the grind? Can they make it to the stretch? And we'll have to see what happens there. I also think they're still small. They still don't rebound the ball well enough, and I think that's going to be a challenge there. They lost 60-49 on the boards. So, look, I like Looney. He's a nice scrapper for them, but I still think they're small. They don't have a way to kind of have two different lineups where you have more size out there and you can get after it on the boards because that helps your defense. But they got out-rebounded by 11 last night, so that wasn't a good sign. I thought the addition of Kuminga with Wiggins on the bench was also interesting. I mean, Andrew Wiggins, just a couple of years ago, he was the second best player on that championship team. Mm-hmm. Last year, he had the issues. His father was sick, took some time away from the game, and he didn't see him in the closing minutes in this game. I thought that was very interesting. At the same time, Kuminga coming off of a good preseason, second in the league in the preseason in scoring. I like that element for them. Him and Moody, as Mr. TD in the chat, him and Moody, that young second generation for the Dubs, as many are looking towards in terms of how they build for the future, you want to see them take that next step. That will help them get through this 82-game slog. They're young players. Those two guys have to take that next step because you're not going to see the same Klay anymore. CP3 is not that same guy anymore. Draymond is Draymond. He's going to fill his role. He's going to lead the offense. He's going to run the offense and still play at a high level. And the chef is the chef. But I'm just not sure they have enough. And again, it's only game one, but I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure about this team.
This team is predicated for the most part on their three-point shooting throughout their history, CP. And last night, 10 for 43 from downtown is terrible. I mean, Klay, we just know how it is, man. Father Time has really caught up to him, especially after having two devastating injuries. You talk about ACL and Achilles. Really just it's difficult, man. After that Warriors-Raptors finals appearance, he is really taking a step back performance-wise. He has his moments here and there, but he's not the same Klay, the lockdown guy, and the same sharpshooter that we're used to seeing. And then CP3 has never been the downtown guy that that you got from the Splash Brothers. So that's why this fits a little interesting. And I get that you want him to be like that Sean Livingston role, right? Where Livingston will come onto the court and really facilitate and be that connector. But Chris Paul is not a guy, in my opinion, that plays well off ball. So to have that fit next to Steph and Clay when CP3 is a guy who's going to pound the rock and wants to organize everybody, it's not really how the Warriors run, man. Like it's such a free flowing offense. It's so different. And then you talk about, the fit and what everyone else is doing on this team, like with Andrew Wiggins and Kuminga, like you need those guys to step up, but that requires opportunity, man. And when you have a guy like Chris Paul, you're once again, I spoke about this with Sam on the preview last year for KFTV. Guys like that need opportunity. When you now have 4 big names, right? And even though Draymond did not play last night, where is he going to get his minutes? I know he got 20 last night, but still, when you have both those guys out there, he's going to need the touches to put up shots. 8 attempts for a guy that you're trying to develop, it's not enough, man, in all honesty. And when you're going to have Curry who's going to take 20, you're going to have Clay who's going to take 18. Now you got CP3 who's going to demand 15. Like, where's the shots for him to really get into this rhythm? It's just this team is so interesting. I'm not really a fan of how it's built. I always had questions with CP3 joining the roster. I don't know, man. I'm not really buying this Warriors team. I see it's going to be a struggle, and maybe they can turn things around as the season goes on. I know it's only game 1, but not really a good showing, man. Like this is it's a free flowing offense. CP3 and free flowing offenses. I've never seen that. If he's not that traditional point guard, like one of the last of a dying breed traditional point guard, it's going to be tough sledding because that's not how Steph Curry plays. It's not how Clay really plays. So, and then when you bring Draymond back, who's been the facilitator, I don't know how all that's going to play out with all 4 of them on the court.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how it plays out, man. It's almost like they're gonna need to run 2 separate offenses or change the pace with CP3 running with that bench. CP3, Kuminga, Moody, whoever else you want to slide out there. It's almost going to have to run that way because it's 2 different styles. It's 2 completely different styles.
It's night and day, man.
Yeah.
It's night and day. And like we've seen it, like we could talk about our Knicks and how it's 2 different plays from like an up-tempo beat with the bench unit. And then you talk about an ISO driven with the starters, right? But it's just different, man, because CP3, he's not looking – he's going to need to play 30 minutes, man. He's going to need to play 30 minutes. He didn't sign just to be some bench role player, right? And just get his, 20 minutes and call it a day. So if he's going to be playing 30 minutes, that's an overlap with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And that's just going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Absolutely, man. So to everybody in the chat, once again, hit that thumbs up button for your boys, the NBA Report, CP and Alex on the 1s and 2s. We are getting our guest in the building here. We are just recapping the TNT doubleheader, man. Denver running over the Lakers, man, 119 and 107. And the Phoenix Suns making their visit to San Francisco. Kevin Durant's first visit to San Francisco in front of live fans, and they leave a winner, 108 to 104 over the Dubs, man. We have Noah Magaro George in the building. Noah, how you feeling, man? Are you ready to go? Let me know when you're ready to go so we can get your cam here. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm all good. I'm ready to go.
Noah gives us a thumbs up, so let's get Alex in here. Let's get Noah in here. Let's just sort that out. So to everybody in the chat, because we are getting ready to talk Wembymania, man. Noah, man, CP and Alex from the NBA Report. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. I'm doing great. I cannot wait for the start of the season. I know it's only a couple of hours away, but it feels like miles away because I'm just that excited to see Wembanyama actually make an official debut. It's not summer league. It's not preseason. It's the real deal now. So I'm hyped. I'm ready to go.
Absolutely, man. And once again, we have Noah Magaro George. He's the editor-in-chief of Air Alamo, also the host of Alamo City Limits, covering the San Antonio Spurs for SB Nation, man. And Noah, on the Wemby front, man, I had a chance to see him in some league. Obviously, you had to get up there and see what the hype was about, and got to go backstage and just see just the rock star persona that he's commanded already as a rookie. But on the court, I mean, you can't blink when you watch this guy because every every move he makes is likely something that you've never seen someone in the NBA do before, man. So what's been your impressions? Have you gone to the games or just through watching on TV? What's been your impressions of Wembanyama so far?
So far, I've only been able to see him on TV, but I agree with you. Everything he does almost feels unprecedented, right? I mean, he's doing things we haven't seen guys do before. I mean, obviously, we've seen, great scores in the league. We've seen guys who can hit you with crossovers, combo moves, behind the back, fadeaways, but we've never seen someone who's that big do that kind of stuff, right? Like when he crossed over and then he megged Reggie Bullock in a preseason game, I was like, there's no way this dude is unreal. Obviously, it only ended up being like free throws for a teammate, but like that's the kind of crazy stuff that, he's doing on a game to game basis. And I kind of think we're going to keep seeing that. And I don't know if it's ever going to get old, but my first impressions really have been just that one word I keep using, unprecedented. Like we just have never seen this before.
Definitely never seen anything like this before. I mean, as you talked about it, he nutmegged Reggie Bullock in a game. I mean, every single game I watch, man, it's the behind the back, it's the dribbling. It's like, okay, is he a point center at this point? Like he's doing a little bit of everything, the shooting, and is really a long way from his debut in preseason because his preseason debut, it was like, whoa, is this guy? What's the hype about this guy? This is nothing great about it. And now we see him in preseason going to the regular season now. And it's like, oh, this is night and day. My big question, though, for you, Noah, is that the whole talk was that they're going to make sure that his body is ready for the NBA, right? Like limit the amount of games he plays, make sure that there's a long lasting career for him because he's still young and growing into his body. But Wemby is aiming to play every single game, he said. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some push and pull, right? Like played every single game for Mets 92 last season, whether that was in Euro Cup, whether that was in the, Jeep Elite League over in France, or whether that was, in the playoffs. So like, he's a guy who wants to be out there every single game. But, in that same breath, the San Antonio Spurs have extended the careers of guys like Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, all guys who are in the Hall of Fame. So Wembanyama understands like this is an organization that knows what they're doing. And I think to be fair to him, right? Like I think almost every single player in the NBA, if they are healthy, they're going to want to suit up, right? They're professional athletes. They want to be out there every single game. They want to play as many minutes as possible. And so there is, to me, just going to be a little bit of push and pull there. Sure, Wembanyama is going to be telling the Spurs like, hey, I want to play tonight. Like, please don't make me sit. But there are going to be nights where the Spurs are just going to have to make that executive decision and say, look, I understand, but we're doing this for your best interest. And, as long as we're keeping your best interest in mind, you keep our best interest in mind. So I think it's going to be a really, beautiful marriage between these two parties, because I think there's just that level of maturity from Victor Wembanyama that he's not going to be, a problem or a prima donna about anything. So I don't think that's going to be an issue with those two guys, or those two parties rather.
Yeah, it seems like obviously him being a young player, the number one rookie in the league, and all the hype that comes with it. Seems like he's aspirational in terms of wanting to play every single game. But from what we heard, especially at the summer league and going through, is that he's got this sophisticated team of scientists, nutritionists, and physical therapists, and so it seems like this is going to be team decision, especially as we enter into this load management era of the NBA, where it seems like this is going to be a collaborative approach between his handlers and the San Antonio Spurs, just as far as, back-to-backs, minutes, so on and so forth. It just seems like it's going to go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the other thing that's kind of maybe not gone under the radar, unless you're, have been watching a lot about Wembanyama, but they've also decided, he's not really going to play the 5 this season. I mean, he had a few minutes here and there during the preseason, but their goal is to keep a big man, like a more traditionally sized center, out there at all times while Wembanyama's on the floor. So they don't want him matching up with Embiid. They don't want him matching up with Jokic or Valanciunas or, any of those bruisers that you think of when you think of guys who are like in the low post. They don't want him doing that. They've been stationing him as a weak side help defender, as a guy who can come over and make those rotations, get those help side blocks. So I think they're doing everything they can to make sure this guy is going to be healthy for the long term, because the last thing you want is, a generational talent like that burning out in a few years because, you overextended him because you pushed him too hard. So I think the Spurs know what they're doing here, and I think Wembanyama respects that as well.
So then what's your expectation for Wemby this season then, with the minutes restriction and him wanting to play in every single game, competition-wise? What are you expecting for Wemby to do this season? Are you expecting like Rookie of the Year? Well, what's the idea?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go out there and say, I think he's going to be the runaway favorite of the year, and maybe not because he's going to be, super efficient, because he wasn't always efficient. The shot selection is still kind of coming along. There are definitely matchups where he can't just use his size, but I think he's going to be one of those guys.
Nope. Still have no. Al still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. I think we might have lost Noah. A little technical difficulty. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. The NBA Report, CP the Franchise, Alex Rotaro's here. We have been speaking to our guest, Noah Magaro George, who covers the San Antonio Spurs, editor-in-chief of Air Alamo, also the host of Alamo City Limits. Just waiting to see.
I'm sorry, did I cut out there? My bad. I didn't even notice I was cutting out.
Yeah, you were in the Matrix for a little bit, man. It's all right, man. We got you back in. We got you back in. So go ahead on. We were talking expectations for Wembanyama.
Yeah, of course. Sorry. Yeah. So for me, it's Rookie of the Year, right? Like, to me, he's the runaway favorite. He's a guy who's going to have that opportunity to have as many shots as he wants. They're going to give him the freedom to experiment. And I don't know that we can look at a lot of other rookies in this class and say, they're going to lead their team in shots, or they're going to lead their team as that number one option. Like, maybe Scoot Henderson might kind of have a chance to do that, but you look at the Chet Holmgrens, you look at the, Amin Thompsons, those guys, there's a clear pecking order, and San Antonio doesn't really have that right now. Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, really solid scorers, but, they're not going to take precedence over Wembanyama. So, between the production, between the opportunity, between all the, defense and offense that he's going to bring to the table, I could easily see him, going anywhere to, 21 points, 8 rebounds, couple blocks, couple assists. And I think that kind of gives you Rookie of the Year. Like, I think that puts it right in the bag for him.
Absolutely, man. And he will be making his NBA debut tonight as the Spurs take on the Dallas Mavericks, man. 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and the gang will visit the Alamo for this one. Certainly going to be box office worthy as we await the season debut of one Victor Wembanyama. But speaking of his teammates and supporting cast, you mentioned Devin Vassell. Devin Vassell in the news just last week, having signed his rookie scale contract extension at 5 years, $146 million. Man, the rookie out of Florida State, the wing player, or top 3-and-D wing player who kind of came on strong last year, man. What were your how did you look at Vassell last year, and what do you think about him going into year 4?
Year 4.
Year 4.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah.
Devin Vassell's my guy. I've really trusted him since he came out of Florida State. I think for him, the floor was always going to be 3-and-D role player. But you could see him started putting stuff together as a sophomore at Florida State, self-creating, getting to those spots in the mid-range. And he finally had the opportunity to kind of show that off last season. And one thing that I've been telling every single person, regardless if it's, a fan or a podcast appearance or my own show, this is a dude who, before he went down with that knee surgery, he was number 3 in efficiency and pull-up mid-range jumpers, only to Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. Now, small sample size because he did go out after like 30 or so games. But to me, that was real. Like, I saw the flashes his first year, his second year. And then the third year, I think he really started putting everything together. He's starting to figure out how to get to the rim. He's a guy who has that length to shoot over defenders, the patience to know how to run the pick and roll a little bit, get to his spots in the mid-range, as we talked about. And his 3-point game, I think if he's able to pull up from 3, that opens a whole new world of possibilities for him. But at the very least, he's a guy who can catch and shoot. He can shoot off movement a little bit, shoot in transition. So I'm really excited for Devin Vassell. I think he's a dark horse candidate to be most improved player of the year this season. But we'll see how the Spurs use him, because they're really, again, there isn't necessarily a pecking order that's, set in stone for them right now. We're not really sure how they're going to approach the offense this year, but really, really excited for Vassell. Definitely a dude who I believe in.
Now, Noah, you mentioned how you want to keep a big man next to Wemby, and it seems like the Spurs reassured that by giving Zach Collins a 2-year contract extension. What are your thoughts on the contract extension and Zach Collins?
I love it. I love it for Zach Collins. I know a lot of people probably don't know Zach Collins. You know, a lot of people probably don't know the San Antonio Spurs. They were really, really bad, right? I mean, they lost 60 games. I don't blame people for not watching them, but he's a guy who's awesome as a, high post facilitator. He can pass out of the low block. He can spread the floor a little bit. He can protect the paint a little bit. I think he's also big enough to, handle those bigger guys. The guys who they kind of want Wembanyama to stay away from. So I love the contract extension. It's only 2 years. And if you look at it from percentage of the cap, by the time we reach the second year, it's going to be like 9-10% of the cap, which is nothing, especially for a starting level center. So I love it for the Spurs. I love it for Zach Collins. I hope he stays healthy because really, I think that's been the number one thing that stopped him from reaching his potential, right? Is just, can he stay on the floor? Yeah. He missed a lot of time last year. He finally got healthy at the end of last season. He's healthy entering training camp. He was healthy entering preseason. He's sick right now, so he's questionable for this opening night matchup, but I think he'll be good in the long run. He looks as healthy as he has since probably his rookie season with the Blazers.
Sick already. Man, missing time.
Al, go ahead, and we want to talk Jeremy Sohan, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, Jeremy Sohan, man. I mean, interesting news to have him as the point guard. So what are your thoughts on Pop's decision on doing that? Because power forward, now a point guard, you got Jones over there. I'm like, what's that decision about?
Certainly an experiment, right? I don't know if, it's going to be a long-term experiment. Popovich even said, hey, like, we're not sure if we're going to run with this starting lineup all year, but for now, we want to test this out. We want to see what this tall ball lineup can do. It offers him a lot of versatility defensively. But as you mentioned, can he be a point guard? I don't know. I don't know that it matters that much because I think they're really going to spread those playmaking touches between guys like Zach Collins, between Wembanyama, between, Vassell and Keldon Johnson, who are more like traditionally sized ball handlers, right? But for Sohan, my question is, can he really take the ball up the court every time down? Can he keep his dribble alive when smaller defenders are kind of hounding him on the perimeter? Because we saw a lot of that during the preseason where they sent someone who's, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" his way, undercut him a bit. He gets uncomfortable, kills his dribble early, kind of gets stranded on an island, right? Like I want to see him be able to kind of handle that. He's not super shifty off the dribble. He's not super explosive, but he is a guy who can kind of back you down to the post and play make from there. So we'll see what they do with him. I'm not in love with the idea of him taking the brunt of, the playmaking responsibilities, all those touches, the, primary ball handling touches, but they're going to try it out. And I think at the very least, you might as well see what you got there. And if it doesn't work, maybe you try to transition him to that, short roll playmaking role, a guy who can, either keep it himself off of dribble handoffs or find teammates, sort of like, what Draymond does with the Golden State Warriors. So we'll see what they do with him, but it doesn't hurt anybody to experiment. They're not trying to win a championship in year one. They'll be fine.
This is true. I was just impressed because, I was just shocked because you got Trey Jones on the team. I know Devontae Graham is he's suspended right now for 2 games. So when he gets back, I figured that you can go one of those guys at the point guard situation and run to the traditional guys who are used to controlling the rock. So just seeing Jeremy Sohan, I was like, that's different, to say the least.
Once again, we're talking to Noah Magaro George, who covers the San Antonio Spurs, man. Editor-in-chief for Air Alamo, plus the host of Alamo City Limits. Spurs hosting the Dallas Mavericks tonight in their season opener on ESPN at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Noah, on the Spurs and Pop, he signs a 5-year extension. What do you think about Pop kind of ushering in this Wemby era and the future? I mean, he lost Becky Hammond, 2-time now WNBA champion, to Las Vegas Aces. He had Will Hardy, his understudy, going to the Utah Jazz to take over there. What do you think is, what's your opinion in terms of the succession plan and also Pop extending for 5 years?
Yeah, we'll start with Pop extending for 5 years. I love it. I absolutely love it. He's a guy who's led this team to 5 championships. He's adapted over the years. He has experience with, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Tim Duncan, Bruce Bowen, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, you name it, right? I mean, he has experience coaching, top level talent. That's not a question. We know that he can handle this job, but I love it because he gives them that continuity, that consistency, that guy who, some coaches, when they arrive in a new situation, right, they show up. And you should respect your coach, but these are professionals. Like, you have to earn their respect. You have to show them that they need to listen to you. Pop walks in a room. He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. His resume speaks for himself. Guys want to play for him. They want to listen to him. They want to learn from him. They realize what he can do to teach them and extend their careers and even really kind of create a foundation to have a long career, right? So I love it from that perspective. As far as the succession plan, your guess is probably as good as mine. I would love to see Becky Hammond come back at some point, but she's running a dynasty over there with Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum and the Las Vegas Aces. She's got to do what she's got to do, right? If she wants to stay there as long as she wants. Shout out to her too, right? Like, congrats for winning that championship. Amazing series from both of those teams. But the succession plan, up in the air. I don't know. Like, you look at the people who are on his bench right now. Is it Darius Sangaila? Maybe. Is it an older guy who we've seen him be an assistant for Pop before? Is it somebody like Mitch Johnson, who's younger, up and coming? No clue. I mean, there's just so many people who could take that job, but we'll see. I mean, it really is a mystery at this point. I have no read on that situation at all, and I'm not sure anybody does.
So then, with all of that said, what's the expectation for this season, right? You talk about Pop, who's a championship-winning coach, talking about a rebuild right now. What's the expectation for the Spurs this year?
Yeah, and this may be a little bit of a cop-out, but I don't really have any expectations for them. I just want to see them play hard. I want to see them improve on the defensive end, which shouldn't be hard. They were the worst team, at least defensively, in NBA history a season ago. So, like, as long as they get out on the court, they should be better than like a year ago. But expectation, I just want to see them, play together, improve on the defensive end, experiment. Like, we talked about it already. Can Sohan play point guard? Can Devin Vassell be that number 2 option for Wemby? What does Wemby look like as that de facto go-to guy on offense? So, I just want to see those things put into action. But other than that, I don't expect them to make the play-in or the playoffs or, are they going to be the worst team in the NBA? I don't think that's going to be the case, but really just want to see them get out there, show some improvement, show some development, have a more concrete idea of what this rebuild is and find that direction, because I think that's important. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have direction, if you don't have the right pieces, you're not going anywhere.
Absolutely, man. Well, knowing the San Antonio Spurs, the sails are at full tilt, man. They'll get it done. And with Wembanyama in tow, you just hope that he stays healthy, man. But I'm I'm going to be intrigued. Spurs are going to be on my League Pass list, and we hope that you'll be back on with us, man, just to give us a progress report on how things are going and how things are looking with young Victor Wembanyama, man. So, Noah, thanks for joining us. Let people know where they can find you. Let them know if you have any upcoming content coming out.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for having me. Had a blast talking about the Spurs. And you can find me on Twitter at @N_Magaro. You can find my work at Air Alamo. You can listen to the podcast that we're bringing back after a hiatus, Alamo City Limits. And we're going to be doing a lot of Spurs coverage. We're going to be talking a lot about Wembanyama, Vassell, Sohan, Keldon, the whole lot. So thank y'all again for having me. And man, I cannot wait for this season to get started tonight.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And for everybody in the chat, thanks for tuning in. Remember that this is available in audio podcast format. No reason to miss it. We are available on all major podcast platforms. So make sure you tap in, man. The NBA Report, CP the Franchise, Alex Shataros. We out of here, man. Peace.